Hello guys, welcome back. Now today, I'm going to be ranking the best NHL centers and putting every single one of them in a tier list. Now, there are a bunch of fantastic centers in the NHL today, but where does each center place in my tier list, and who do I see as the best centers in the NHL today? Watch till the end to find out. We're going to have 31 different NHL centers. Some are first centers, some are second centers, but for the most part, these are some of the best centers in the NHL today. We're going to have them in 5 different tiers: generational, franchise, elite, good, and last but not least, decent. Now I'm going to be putting the faces of every single player we'll be ranking in today's video on the screen right here. I ended up pulling this tier list out of random. I just went on Tier Maker and found it. It's not my tier list, so if you see anybody who isn't on this ranking that should be in this ranking, let me know down in the comments below and I'll give you guys my opinions on where they should be in this tier list. Now we're going to start from the decent tier and make our way up to the generational tier, and starting out in the decent tier, I have William Karlsson of the Vegas Golden Knights. Some of you guys know Vegas Golden Knights are my third favorite team, and I love me some William Karlsson, but when it comes to the rest of these NHL centers, I think he's just decent. I was really close putting him in the good tier, but this past season, he really wasn't up to snuff compared to what he had in that first year of Vegas. He had that 40-goal season, which is absolutely fantastic, but for me, he needs to show more consistency to get up to those higher tiers. Now moving on to my second player in the decent category, and for my second player, I have Ryan Getzlaf. Now, he probably would have been at least the good tier probably 2 or 3 years ago, but this isn't a tier list for 2 or 3 years ago. This is for now, and right now I feel like Ryan Getzlaf is just decent. And also Vex, obviously with health, that obviously goes into it, but when it comes to Ryan Getzlaf, even when he is healthy, I think he's just a decent second line center, and especially compared to the other centers on this list, he's just okay. Now getting out from under the decent tier and now onto the good tier, and for the first player I have in the good tier, I have Jonathan Toews. Now obviously a fantastic defensive forward. He had a great rebound season playing with guys like Patrick Kane. He got a lot of points and obviously was pretty solid offensively. I'm not sure how far that will last when it comes to Jonathan Toews. He's getting older. He's getting out of his prime age. But for Chicago, he is still a captain obviously. But I think right now he is still a good NHL center. Not a great one, not an elite one, but pretty good. And moving on to the next player in the good tier, and for my next player, I have Ryan Johansson. A center, obviously, of the Nashville Predators. He's fantastic offensively, especially even strength. On the power play, kind of like the rest of the Nashville Predators, it wasn't all too great, but even strength-wise, he's very, very solid. And defensively, obviously, there's some work to be done, but he is decent there. When it comes to Nashville, though, a lot of the offense is driven by Ryan Johansson. When the Nashville Predators are going, he's usually going, and of course, vice versa. Now moving on to the third player in the good tier. For my next player, I have Dylan Larkin, center for the Detroit Red Wings, one of the future guys in that rebuild right now, and I'm personally a big fan of what Dylan Larkin brings, speed-wise, just skill-wise. Great American kid right there. Love to see him play well with Detroit, but overall, this past season, I think it was a big rebound, or I guess a kind of breakout year for Dylan Larkin. Before that, I never really thought of Dylan Larkin as a potential first-line center on a Stanley Cup final team, but I feel like with Dylan Larkin, he has that potential. He's still very, very young, still has a lot to give, and right now is one of the best up-and-coming centers in the NHL. Now, advancing on to the next player in the good tier. For my next player, I have Mika Zibanejad. Now, I really wanted to put him in the league tier, but I'm not that biased towards the New York Rangers, but I love me some Mika Zibanejad. One of my favorite players in the league right now. Absolutely love him, and when it comes to the New York Rangers, again, he is that first-line center there. He's, I think, really, really good, especially offensively. He's stirred the drink when it comes to New York in the past couple of years on a team that has not had the greatest offense in the world. I think he will be probably a second-line center for a Stanley Cup winning team. Not that first-line center, but still pretty good. And moving on to my fifth player in the good tier, or my next player, I have Anze Kopitar. Now, this might be one of the more controversial ones in this entire tier list, but he was, again, one of those guys that was close to elite, but I still think in the good tier. Now, when it comes to Anze Kopitar, he had that amazing season 2 seasons ago, but this is a tier list for right now, and this past season was pretty terrible for Anze Kopitar. Offensively, even defensively to some extent, he was just not that good. He is in the good tier for some of his past performance, but if it was this past season, I don't know if I even have him in the tier list. He was that average. And we're going to go finally into the elite tier, and by the way, this is the tier with by far the most players, and it's not even close, but starting us off, we have is Mark Scheifele. And when it comes to Scheifele, he was one of the guys that's kind of lower in the elite tier for me. I'm not on the hype train for him as much as some other people, but he has serious skill, serious talent, and point-wise, he's put up tons of points in the past few years, especially Winnipeg, having guys like Blake Wheeler, Patrick Laine to pass to. He's been awesome, both goal-scoring-wise and passing-wise. Moving on to the next player in the elite tier. For my next player, I have Patrice Bergeron. Of course, center of the Boston Bruins. When healthy, one of the best defensive forwards in the NHL, and still up to this day is one of those guys. Now, Patrice Bergeron, obviously, for a long time, has been winning Selke after Selke after Selke. He's not that elite level of defense that I would say like a top 2 player or the best defensive player. I don't know if he's that anymore, but he's still so good. Still great offensively. And obviously, having guys like Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak to pass to is not bad at all. Moving on to the next player in the elite category, and for my next player, I have Alexander Barkov. Now, he was so close to the franchise tier. Honestly, it kind of hurt me to put him in the elite tier. I love me some Alexander Barkov, but he was probably the closest guy to franchise to not make it. But he's still in the elite tier. Absolutely fantastic. Obviously, the captain for the Florida Panthers. Amazing defensive forward. Fantastic offensively. And while he took a little bit of a step back this past season defensively, I still think overall he's a fantastic defensive forward. The best on the Florida Panthers. And overall, not even a question, the best player for the Panthers. Now moving on to the 4th player in the elite tier. For my next player, I have Leon Draisaitl. Probably one of the more controversial players in this entire NHL. And when it comes to the tier list, honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you put him low, if you put him high, whatever it might be. But Leon Draisaitl, obviously, I still think he's a center, even though he probably played more wing with Connor McDavid this past season. Honestly, he's just so controversial. He scored 100 points this past season. I think he's amazing offensively. To me, myself, I think he needs to prove himself outside of Connor McDavid to be put in the franchise tier, but obviously in the elite tier, that's still freaking amazing, especially for a guy that got 100 points this past season. Moving on to the 5th player in the elite tier. For my next player, I have Sean Monahan. In my opinion, one of the more misunderstood players in the NHL. Now, some people might say that he's a Selke guy. I don't get that whatsoever, because when you actually look at his play, he is not good defensively. It's the offense that he really does prioritize, and he's very good at it. Both even strength and on the power play, he's very good offensively, and again, one of the main drivers of play on Calgary. He's fantastic with that, and obviously playing with Johnny Gaudreau ain't bad whatsoever. He's probably one of the more low-tier elite players on this tier list, but still pretty freaking amazing. Now moving on to the 6th player in the elite tier. For my next player, I have Matt Duchene of the Nashville Predators. Now when it comes to Matt Duchene, I would say again he's probably one of the more low-tier elite players, but I still think he's fantastic. Proving it with Columbus and with Ottawa, he's a great center, and I think will be fantastic for the Nashville Predators. The offense is certainly key there. He's not great defensively, but when you have that much offense, I don't think you need to play defense at that point. And I think the Nashville Predators probably agree with that. Now moving on to the 7th player in the elite tier. For my next player in the elite tier, I have Nicholas Backstrom, of course, center with the Washington Capitals. When it comes to Backstrom, he's probably, again, one of the more low-tier elite players, but I still think he's fantastic. As a somewhat Capitals fan, I love him to bits. Stanley Cup champion, love to see it. I don't think he is whatsoever underrated anymore. I think at this point he might be a little bit overrated, but I still think Backstrom is a fantastic player with a bunch of offense, of course, feeding it to Ovi basically every single game. And moving on to the 8th player in the elite tier, and next up I have Logan Couture, one of my favorite players in the entire league, and it's been that way for a long time. But offensively, he's fantastic for the San Jose Sharks. Could be the future captain for them if all goes well this offseason. But when it comes to Couture, again, he's so good for San Jose. In the playoffs, he was just an even bigger monster than he was in the regular season. It was amazing in the regular season what he was able to perform like, but in the playoffs, he was just so good. Now moving on to the 9th player in the elite tier. For my next player in the elite tier, I have Steven Stamkos. Of course, center with the Tampa Bay Lightning. When it comes to Stamkos, I think he's taking a little bit of a step back, at least overall in the past couple of years, but he's still a fantastic center and one of the best in the league. Now, of course, he's gotten a ton of points in the past couple of years, with Tampa Bay having guys like Nikita Kucherov, Brandon Point to just feed it past. He's both a goal scorer and an assist guy, and honestly, he's great at both. He keeps doing it year after year, and of course, when he is healthy, one of the best point-producing centers in the NHL. Now going on to the 10th player in the elite tier, and moving on, we have Sean Couturier. Now obviously center with the Philadelphia Flyers. He's taken big steps forward in the past couple of years, both defensively and offensively. Now when it comes to Couturier, I think he's solid, great defensively. Maybe he could win a Selke trophy in his career, but offensively, I think he's very underrated for what he brings. Feeding Claude Giroux, obviously, amazingly. But when it comes to Couturier, again, both goal scoring, assist-wise, he's great at both, but obviously the defense is not bad whatsoever. Now moving on to the 11th player in the elite tier, and moving on to the last player in the elite tier, I have my boy Tyler Seguin. Now, as some of you guys know, the Dallas Stars are my first favorite team. I love my boy Tyler Seguin, absolutely amazing, and I think he is an elite player, elite center in the league right now. Now, offensively, obviously, is what he brings. I think he's a decent penalty kill guy. He's okay defensively, but that's not what you pay him that money for. You pay him for that offense, and he brings it, both on even strength and on the power play. A fantastic sniper with amazing goal-scoring opportunities, and of course, the passing also is pretty fantastic. Okay, so you know what I said about Tyler Seguin being the last player in the elite tier? Well, just forget all that because we have one more player in the elite tier, that being Evgeny Kuznetsov, of course, center with the Washington Capitals, a guy that I've been a big fan of for the past few years. Skill-wise, one of the best on this tier list, and has been showing the reason why. When it comes to Washington, as Backstrom kind of takes that next step back, Kuznetsov will be the first-line center for them. He already kind of is for them, but I would say playing time-wise, and especially on the power play, he is super dangerous, and again, one of the more talented centers in this entire tier list. Now going from the elite tier and now on to the franchise tier. And going into the franchise tier, my first player is Jack Eichel. Center for the Buffalo Sabres, of course, drafted second overall back in 2015 NHL draft behind Connor McDavid. But when it comes to Jack Eichel, he's still freaking amazing. He took big steps this past season in Buffalo, both offensively and defensively, but offense is what they're paying him $10 million to do, and he has brung that in the past couple of years. He's done fantastic in that department, and for Buffalo, is one of the guys they need and rely on. Advancing on to the second player in the franchise tier, and next up, I have Matthew Barzal. Obviously, the center with the New York Islanders. Fantastic player. Obviously, in the rookie season was fantastic. Maybe he took a little bit of a step back in his second year, but I still think offensively one of the more gifted guys in the NHL today. When it comes to the Islanders, he's so young, so good, and probably a potential captain after Anders Lee. Moving on to the third player in the franchise tier, for a player that's made his way up a bunch in this past year, we have Ryan O'Reilly, and he's been so good for the St. Louis Blues in just 1 year playing them. Who knew? Maybe the Buffalo Sabres did. I don't know anymore. But when it comes to the Ryan O'Reilly situation, he's been so good in St. Louis. In the regular season, he was great. During their slump, he was the best player on that team. Not even close. And even after, he was fantastic. In the playoffs, it took a little bit for him to get going offensively, but he's great in that department. He won the Selke Trophy, which I think was 100% deserved. He had the best defensive year out of any forward in the NHL this past season, which was absolutely amazing. He got rewarded for that, and deservedly so. Offensively, defensively, he brings it all, and is one of the best centers in the league right now. Now getting on with the fourth player in the franchise tier, and next up we have Elias Pettersson. Center for the Vancouver Canucks, absolutely friggin' fantastic. He is the definition of a franchise-changing player, and he changed the franchise this past season. Being as good as he did, winning the Calder Trophy, when he was healthy, being awesome offensively. He bring a new life and new entertainment to the Vancouver Canucks and gave a lot of Canucks fans reasons to watch Canucks games. And Elias Pettersson, just him alone, is a reason to watch Canucks games right now and in the future. Now moving on to my fifth player in the franchise tier, and next up I have Sebastian Aho. Of course, center with the Carolina Hurricanes. I think he, again, I don't know if he's underrated right now, but I think kind of undervalued right now. I think he's amazing offensively. This past season, he was an absolute monster, not just points-wise, but expected goals, everything you'd like to see. And on the ice, he was just a beast to be reckoned with. He's so young right now. I'm pretty sure he's still like 21 or 22. He's getting into his prime right now. And when it comes to Sebastian Aho, when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes, one of the more up-and-coming teams in the NHL, he'll lead them into the promised land and potentially a Stanley Cup. Moving on to our first center for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the rankings. On the next player for the franchise tier, I have John Tavares. He speaks like this, like a good old Canadian kid, very dry, very good, but still a very fantastic player, even if he doesn't have the greatest personality. Now, obviously, he ended up losing the first round versus Boston. As a Maple Leafs fan, I do not want to mention that, but since coming to the Toronto Maple Leafs in that first year, he was absolutely fantastic, scoring goals left and right. He's been great so far offensively, pretty much as good as advertised, and even more. Moving on to the next Toronto Maple Leafs center, the next player I have in the franchise tier, I have Auston Matthews. Obviously, the face for the Toronto Maple Leafs, kind of like Elias Pettersson, a guy that a few years ago changed the franchise and put his head on his bottom. It's been absolutely amazing to see what he's been doing so far. When he is healthy, he's one of the most talented and lethal players in the NHL. It's been a problem when it comes to health. Hopefully, he can play a full season next season, and if he does, you better watch out because he'll be scary and probably an Art Ross contender. And moving on to the next player in the franchise tier, and next up I have Evgeny Malkin. Now, it's not a Toronto center, we are finally past that phase, but now we got Malkin. When it comes to Evgeny Malkin, I don't think he's a top 3, maybe even, I don't even think he's a top 5 center anymore because of this past season. I don't think he's that anymore. He has that reputation. I think he's fantastic franchise face, but I don't think he's good defensively whatsoever. Offensively, I think in the past couple of years has been a little bit dry in his area, especially even strength. But when it comes to Malkin, he's still fantastic. Again, one of the best centers offensively in the league and can bring that at the very least. And moving on to our last player in the franchise tier, and next up, I have Nathan MacKinnon. Obviously, center with the Colorado Avalanche. He was so close to being in the generational tier, but I would probably say he's one of, if not the best player in this franchise tier. Obviously, he's been fantastic. In the past couple of years, he's been Hart candidate after Hart candidate. He's been so good in that department. Offensively, one of the best guys in the league. Defense, he can still be pretty decent, but offensively, both even strength and on the power play, he is so lethal. And for opposing goalies, they straight up do not want to face him. Now, finally, advancing into the best tier, the generational tier, the S tier, if you will. We have the generational tier for my first player. Obviously, it is Sidney Crosby. Now, I could go on a rant saying how good he is and how skilled he is, but you guys already know that. He's a fantastic player that is generational, both 10 years ago and now. Still a generational player, even at his older age. He's not a grandpa yet, but still one of the best players in the NHL, and some might say the best player still right now. And some people might say that Sidney Crosby is better than Connor McDavid, but I'm not going to make that argument because it is plain wrong. Connor McDavid is the best player in the NHL right now. Center-wise, positionally, he is the best player on the earth right now, and to me, it's not even really close. I love Sidney Crosby. Some people might say Nikita Kucherov might be the best player in the World League right now. I don't think those arguments are really valid because Connor McDavid, to me, is the best out of them all. The second player in the generational tier, and an obvious pick, obviously having Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid as the generational picks was maybe the most easiest choices of this entire tier list. Now, because I did a top 10 centers list last year in last offseason, I wanted to keep that trend also going this year. I wanted to also give you guys my top 10 centers, and those top 10 centers are this. At number 10, I have Leon Draisaitl. At number 9, I have Brayden Point. At number 8, I have Alexander Barkov. At number 7, I have Sebastian Aho. At number 6, I have Ryan O'Reilly. At number 5, I have John Tavares. At number 4, I have Auston Matthews. At number 3, I have Nathan MacKinnon. At number 2, I have Sidney Crosby. And last but not least, at number 1, I have Connor McDavid. But of course, with this video, I need to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So, let me know, what do you think of my NHL center tier list? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let me know. And the question on to you, what do you think about my top 10 centers list? And who do you think are the best centers in the NHL today? But, if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video on my favorite NHL teams tier list, 31 up to 1. But, that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on my tier list, what you agree with and what you disagree with, and I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.